Just had to refresh YouTube, and as soon as that's done, I will do the regular Zoom recording. You're on your way, Ed.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the January 6th regular meeting of the Board of Estimate and Taxation. Esther, can I get you to call a roll to begin, please?
Yes. Mayor Harry W. Rilling,
Present.
Mr. Ed Abrams,
Here?
Mr. Ed Camacho. You're muted.
Ed's here. He's just having
Sorry, I
Yeah.
had the thing on mute. Yeah, I'm here.
Yes, Mr. Kendrick Constant. Okay.
Kendrick is
Mr.
here again.
yeah.
He's on mute.
Sorry, I'm late, guys. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Kendrick.
Mr. Troy Jelleret,
Yeah, Troy's here.
Mr. Artie Kasimis,
Here.
and Miss Ann Yang.
Here.
And with that, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Our first order of business this evening is approval of the minutes from our December 2nd meeting. May I get somebody to move that for discussion and approval, please?
I'll move it.
Thank you, Artie. Any changes, amendments, revisions to the minutes as presented in our package this evening? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Extension. I wasn't here.
That's fine, Artie. Thank you. Minutes are approved. Next on our agenda, there are no special appropriations, so we will move right to the transfer agenda, section B, beginning on page 5 of our package. May I get someone to please move the transfers for discussion and vote?
I'll move it.
Thank you, Artie. Tom, do you want to lead us through the various transfers for this evening?
Yeah, sure. But just before that, now in section A, the special appropriations, those refer to operating budget special appropriations. There is a special capital appropriation on the agenda tonight, and that goes in, and that will come up in section C. So just a little quirky thing that happens every few months that I'd like to clear up. And then on to the transfers. Our first one is with Recreation and Parks. And that is totaling $51,000. And that is a transfer within their department. It is not a request for contingency. We have Ken Hughes and Robert Stowers here to talk through that one, 4 different line items. Go ahead, guys.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, Mr. Chairman, and members of the board. You have before us our request for some transfers for this month. The first 2 are due to the fact that we were without a recreation superintendent for the past 6 months. We finally were able to hire Elsa McConan, who's our new recreation superintendent. But due to the vacancy, we had to backfill her job duties with our existing part-time employees, as well as some overtime. So that left us short in a few accounts. So that is what that transfer is for. The third one is a recreation supply line items. We have 5 or 6 different recreation supply accounts. So this is just transferring $384 from one rec supply account to another. And then the final transfer request is to cover our longevity payments, which happens in December of every year. So typically, this is an automatic process done through the personnel department and comptroller. For some reason, they were shorted this year. So we had to cover the shortfall in our longevity payments from our overtime account. So if you have any questions, I'm here. If you need clarifications.
Any questions for Ken or Robert on these transfers?
Well, add one thing on the longevity. We now have some visibility, or better visibility, I should say, into each of the individual departments who qualifies for a longevity payment and how much it is based on the previous contract. So once we start getting into the fiscal 26 requests and reviews, we'll have a much more accurate number than we had this year.
Okay. Any questions on this again? All right. I'm going to ask if it's okay with the rest of the board that we move through all of the transfers and approve them in bulk, unless anyone has any concerns about doing that.
Fine.
Okay, then Tom, let's keep moving to the probate court, please.
Yep, the next one is for the probate court. They are requesting $15,000 to cover their expenses through the balance of the fiscal year. We have Judge Stern here to talk through this and take any questions that you might have.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm the judge of the Norwalk Wilton Probate Court. We have budget requirements, and I was not there to address questions and concerns at the last hearing, and I apologize for that. It left you at a bit of a disadvantage on how to approach probate requests. The memorandum that I wrote was very much in response to some of the things that I saw at the hearing that I was not there to attend, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Our mission has not changed. We believe our requests are modest and consistent, and we really do need it for the upcoming half of the fiscal year. So I'm happy to elaborate on anything that you're interested in learning about the probate court system. But thank you for having me.
Questions for Judge Stern from anyone? Ann?
Stern, do you receive any part of the fees that you collect from probate cases?
Basically, we get fees, and they get deposited into an account that is completely under the control and management of probate court admin. We have no access to what we charge for fees, other than fee waivers for indigent individuals, and everything that we bring in is under the control of the state of Connecticut. That wasn't always the case. There was a realignment maybe 15 years ago, but yes, that's how the fee collection works.
And so theoretically, your expenses should be covered by those fees that you garner?
Yes, the statute that I attached sort of lays out the kinds of things that the municipalities are responsible for, and those are the sorts of things that we've requested in our ask.
Do you have any sense of the amount of fees that you receive on an annual basis? I know it depends upon the estates, but I would actually think it's pretty significant.
I would think so too. We're in large part removed from that on purpose, but that's an interesting question. We're the sixth largest jurisdiction in the state, and between the hospitals and nursing homes, and obviously wealthy estates in both Norwalk and Wilton, we have a very diverse portfolio that does bring in fees. It certainly does.
And
In going forward, is it possible that you might be able to get additional funding from the state, from what in the work that you do, rather than having to rely necessarily upon the city?
Well, the statute spells out the kinds of things that the state is responsible for. The state pays our salaries, our benefits, continuing legal education, and much else. I can certainly ask if the Norwalk Wilton Probate Court can be apportioned a larger amount. And I think I follow where your questions are going. I think those would be good things for me to ask the probate court administrator.
That would be terrific, because every little bit counts here. Thank you.
It certainly does. And going forward, I certainly plan on attending these. So please feel free to hold me to that and ask follow-up questions the next time that you see me. I'm happy to do that.
Great, thank you.
a couple of questions, Ed, if that's, if I may.
Yes, please, Ed, go ahead.
So, Judge, you said that Norwalk, that based on some sort of a formula that the Norwalk Wilton Probate Court, or Norwalk's share of the overall cost was recommended to be close to 30,000 or slightly over $30,000.
30,400 and change, yeah.
Okay, and of that 30,440 some odd dollars, you indicated that the court has already spent roughly 22 plus thousand of that 30,000 that was supposed to be allocated, but you were only allocated 15,000. Is that correct?
Yes, Wilton covered all of their requests, which was over 9,000. So that's what we've been working with up until this point.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions for Judge Stern? Thank you, Your Honor. Tom, shall we move on to the Registrar of Voters, please?
Yeah, just one other point, Judge, just from a protocol perspective, assuming that this gets approved, we process these transfers tomorrow morning, and it should be reflective in the system by noontime.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you.
The next one is, I believe, Registrar of Voters. We have Stuart Wells here. This is a pretty significant request of almost $241,000 out of contingency. This is largely due to the new early voting requirements that took place. If I'm not mistaken, 14 plus days of presidential voting in November. I see Stuart on the line. Stuart, would you like to add anything to this?
Well, you pretty much have the key point, and fundamentally going forward, elections are going to cost about twice as much because a 1 day of voting at one polling place is about the same as 1 day of early voting at City Hall. We have 13 polling places and 14 days of early voting. This, of course, was a presidential election, and the early voting was incredibly successful and popular. So we had that many more people and that much more time to needed to process everything. We had the highest turnout overall in the state for early voting. The legislature could cut these costs a little bit in a couple of areas if they let us put the ballots in tabulators or the voters to do it instead of in envelopes. That would save a good deal of money. We have to open those envelopes later, process them. Just the envelopes alone require stickers. The stickers are 20 cents a piece. It's kind of a ridiculous waste of time and effort when the tabulators could be used directly. There may have been some reluctance in that using the old tabulators, but the new ones are much better and also have a lockable cover that's part of their arrangement, meaning no one could get at them and they could accumulate the results the whole time. And then instead of processing for a day and a half to get those ballots where they can be reported, we'd be able to report them at 8 o'clock that night. Also, of course, there was a primary for the Republicans for a statewide primary. On the Republican side, those tend not to be in our budgets because we don't know for sure that we're going to have them. I believe that's part of your numbers as well. And I'm not sure if there's anything residual from the presidential preference primary. The primary in August, though, had 7 days of early voting. So, it adds up.
Stuart, one question from me before
Sure.
I turn it to the floor. Since all of these are wage and salary related expenses, are these actual costs at this point, or are these still estimated costs? I ask because they all
No,
seem
they're all spent.
they're all
and-
actualized, even though
Yes,
they're
in
nice round
addition
numbers.
to the people to run the early voting, we need a lot of part-time help in managing them because there's only a few of us in the office and we have to be ready for the regular election. We don't have extra management personnel, and we're going to have to get them part-time, and we'll try to budget for them going forward. But it's a real
Understood.
difficulty in the way they set us up to do all this at the
Understood.
same
It was
time.
was
Quite a
just
bit of overtime as well for the same reason.
okay. It's just an oddly round set of numbers for actualized costs. But if these are the actual expenses, they are the actual expenses. Questions
Ed-
from other members of the board?
I have a couple of questions.
Please, Ed.
Number one, Ed, do you anticipate that the state will provide the municipalities monies in the future now that we know that this 14 days of early voting is going to result in that much more expense to cities and towns. Is there any indication that the state is going to provide some of that funding in the future?
Whenever legislators are approached, there's no great indication in that direction, primarily even from Bob Duff. We did get, I think, 10 for the first election and 24 for the second one, so about 34 overall this last calendar year. But I have no great expectation that that's likely to continue. And in any event, it would have only been 15% of the total. I'd much rather see them reduce the requirements and let us try to save those monies. Also, of course, this was the first year. We'd never done it before. And so there was a whole lot of learning curve on that. The equipment's going to be improved. They're getting new tabulators coming in. So we should be able to do better in the future and anticipating this. But they're going to add more absentee voting. So you're gonna have to deal with that in the upcoming thing. They might give a few bucks for that, but I doubt it. But fundamentally, it's done some good things too. It's eased the burden at the polling places. We can probably thin the number of checker lines we have there, anticipating that half the vote will come early. Of course, it still leaves a lot of lines in City Hall. I don't think I got the budget to build some extra wings on City Hall to handle this. But so they'll be out in everybody's hallways like they were.
My follow-up question is, do you anticipate, or have there been conversations about lifting some of these requirements so that you could use tabulators in the future rather than have to open envelopes on election night?
There's a lot of pressure on that coming from the registrars, and I believe from the Secretary of State. But you're a few minutes early on that question. Their proposals aren't in for new changes yet. Very shortly, those proposals go into the legislature. I'm sure there will be some, but you can kind of tell whether you're going to get somewhere as to who makes the proposed statutory change. When it's key people in the GAE committee, it's got a good chance of passing. When it's outside legislators, not so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of quick questions. This is Troy. Stuart, how many people was this involved at City Hall for the 14 days? Because I did go by there and do that myself.
25 or so. We have to run, of course, the community room, which you saw with a lot of people. What you didn't see was the extent each night where they had to try to rectify the numbers, it's because of the envelopes. Also, we have to run some curbside voting, which took 2 or 3 people. We were able to take some pressure off the lines with using that a little more than you would normally, not just people who were sick very recently and couldn't otherwise vote, but some of the ones that would have had a hard time with mobility getting all the way to the community room. We utilized our people doing that, but probably didn't see them if you didn't go that route.
So you're saying that, did I hear you say 5 people?
No, we had about 20 people or 25. We had about
20.
25 total doing it. And then, of course, different jet. It's a full 8-hour day. Although it's a couple of them 12-hour days. And we needed a couple different shifts during the 14 days to try to avoid going over the 40-hour limit. So we're going to have to pay them even more.
Okay, so you're saying that 240,000 is going to 20 to 25 people. Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't have the breakdown of what this is. Maybe Tom does exactly. I'm telling you, it doubles the cost of the election.
Yeah, don't forget that final line item is the police officers. So at every polling place, there was a police officer at all times.
2.
And then yeah,
2 at their request and approved, and that's 80,000 of it.
Yeah, I see that line item. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I was just surprised to see this number that large. Is this going to be every year now we're going to do this? The state has mandated it, or
yes,
it's just
although
for
they
the
might
election
reduce
presidential?
They might reduce the number of days. There's some pressure to reduce the number of days to 10 in municipal years where less people tend to vote. I don't know how far that's gonna go. I'd be in favor of it. There's also some pressure on them to try to have a little bit of a gap between the end of early voting and voting day. We have one day to prepare everything, get it to the polls. It's very difficult and time consuming. We were working, Sunday night late after the one closed so that we could prepare for the election day.
And and then you mentioned the scanning versus the envelopes. Oh, did the state mandate to you the procedure you had to do it, or you guys put it
Oh,
in
they
place?
they mandate everything. If it had been up to us, we could have saved as we indicated.
Yeah, I just had one comment. I did do the early voting, and I just felt that there might have been a privacy issue when I give you the vote. And why couldn't they just, and I think Miss Ed mentioned it, on election day, you just run it through the scanner. Nobody knows who you are, who you voted. But when you do the early voting, you have to put it in an envelope with your name on it and you sign it. I mean,
Yep.
doesn't that take the privacy out of it?
It would, but believe me, if you're counting 18,000 of these things, you're taking them out of the envelope and sticking them in a pile, and nobody's paying much attention to how you voted. But yes, the privacy is potentially a concern. In an absentee ballot, there's two envelopes, and the second one doesn't have your name on it. That's another reason why we'd much rather have them put them in the tabulators, because that perception of privacy is just as important as the actual privacy. As I say, you do this for 5 minutes and you don't care who's voting for who.
Yeah, I know, but the point is, how many?
Right.
What was the percentage of the people that did vote early? Did you get that number?
40%.
20? How much?
40%. And with some absentees, we expect about half the vote will come in before election day going forward. Based on this was much more popular than anyone expected it to be.
Yeah.
Something like a third or a quarter was the highest estimate we saw. We were running back and forth, up and down, and working all night just to try to manage that much volume. And City Hall had some long lines because of that.
Yeah. All right. Well, the convenience was good, but I mean, there is a cost involved. Thank you, Stuart.
There's no question there's a cost to this.
Artie, I believe you have a question or comment?
Yeah, my question it relates to cost. Did you see an increase in the number of voters that have come out overall?
Actually, in this election, now we don't have a really good comparison. Last presidential election was the COVID year, and they had 18,000 absentee ballots, or 17,000, very comparable number of them. There was a small decrease in total voting of about 1% in Norwalk, but many of the other cities had a greater decrease, 2000 to 2024.
Yeah. So, Stuart, for argument's sake, then, if let's say, the 1 day voting cost the city $1 a voter, right? So now for 14 days, what's that number now?
Well,
is it $25 for a vote?
No, but it'd be a couple of dollars. I mean, because 1 day does cost around 75, 80,000 in a presidential year. And
Are these figures?
It roughly doubles the cost to have the early voting.
Okay. Are these the figures that they're going to collect the Secretary of State to see if it's feasible? I understand the convenience, but we're talking about real dollars and cents here.
I agree, but it's the legislature that imposed this, and based on a constitutional amendment that allowed it in the first place. And I doubt that they're going back on it. Look how popular it was.
I get it. I do get it. But I'm just saying, are you going to at least feed them some kind of statistics? They got to analyze this. If they're not measuring what it's costing us, then, what are they doing?
We're one of the last
and
states.
we're happy to.
Yeah.
We're actually one of the last states to have early voting.
I understand. And again, I'm just trying to figure out what the numbers are.
No,
And
It'd be nice if the state
you got a
did
budget
some of
next
it.
year.
It's all very fair commentary, and it's all things we need to consider. From everything I'm hearing from Stuart, though, it's out of his hands and his control to resolve. It's
Yeah, I'm not
something-
arguing that point.
Yeah, I think we all, it's a good question for the legislation, let's see what happens as they come through the next set of processes to Stuart's points. And then as citizens and as a BET, we can reach out to Bob Duff and others to advocate for offsetting these costs.
Yeah.
Ed, can I just add one quick thing? So I forget who was, somebody asked about the roundish numbers for the transfer. What I did was I basically took the overruns that we have in our ledger for each of those 4 line items and requested enough to cover those overruns. So for part-time example, they had a budget of $100,000, but they actually spent 222,167. Thus, the transfer of 123 to cover that.
Okay.
So Stuart's list of actual costs may be different than what we're requesting out of contingency because there was some budget already there.
Okay, thank you. That helps. Any other questions related to the transfer aspect of this? Any questions on any of the other transfers just before we vote to approve? All right, all in favor of approving the transfers as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I would like to make an amendment and a comment. I understand that the judge needs his budget, but if we could for next year see if you can come back and get more funds from state, given what revenue generator you are.
Yep, fair point, Ann, and that was covered in the comments earlier as well, so that should be in the notes here. Okay, so Ann, were you, just for
Yes,
clarity?
Yes, I'm in favor of the.
Okay. Any opposed to the transfers? Abstentions? The transfers are then approved. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is other business that begins in our packet on page 13. And it starts to Tom's earlier conversation with a special capital appropriation. So Tom, do you want to walk us through that part of the discussion and then have Robert and Ken participate as needed?
Yeah, so this one is related to 98 South Main Street, the long-awaited community recreation center.
I'm sorry, Tom, just point of order here. Since this is an action request, I need to ask
Yeah,
that this
right.
item be moved, please, for discussion, the capital
moved.
transfer.
I'll
Thank
move
you, Artie.
Yeah, so this is the Recreation and Parks Community Center at 98 South Main Street. There's already funding from a variety of different sources to nurse this project along. And this is a final request for some additional funds for items that have come up recently. And I see Robert Stowers is here, Ken Hughes is here, and Alan Lowe from Building Management, whichever one of you guys want to take it away.
Yeah, Alan is going to lead the discussion. As you know, we've been working on this project for some time. It's one of our, I think, one of our real, it's one of our real highlighted projects. And so Alan's going to take us through it. We need a special appropriation to complete this project. So Alan's going to take it. And then if you have any questions, then I can answer. I'll be here during conversation.
Alan?
Yeah, maybe I just want to go over some little bit of history in case there's public members listening on and doesn't understand what this is about. 90 South Main Street used to be a South Norwalk Community Center. A number of years ago, it ended up to be the city's possession, and the city actually owned part of this building previously, but then we acquired the remaining share of the property, probably 2014 or so, 15 or so. For these years, then nothing much happened to the building because there was a discussion about joining with a partner. We went out for RFP and we got proposal YMCA, potential joint partnership to develop this building for a recreation, somewhat recreation and community use center. Through the years, the the many financial challenges that we face because construction costs in the last few years has been escalating quite a bit. And at some point, the YMCA was unable to continue this relationship with the city, so that never materialized. Thereafter, the city decided to that, you know what, why don't we do this ourselves as a community or recreation center? And so from then on, we put a funding package together. If you follow my memo a little bit, right now we have state money from DECD. We have leftover money from the GGP, the acquisition of not acquisition, the money we got from the mall development projects. There's also ARPA funding of $6.3 million, and there's HUD money about $2 million. And this year we get allocated $2.5 million from our capital budget funding. So it's a whole bunch of money. It came out to be about $13 million. Recently, well, one of the issue that not issue, one of the criteria that we have is really from the ARPA money. The ARPA money is very specific about having a funding commitment by the end of December of last year, a few weeks ago. Based on that schedule, we were under the pressure to get this thing out to bid, design out to bid in a timely fashion to meet that requirement. So we did all that work and went out to bid in October, November, and the bids came higher than expected. So we went through this whole value engineering exercise one more time. We found about $1.1 million worth of reduction, but at the end of the day, we are still short about $2.4 million. So we are requesting a special appropriation of $2.45 million, and this will give us about 3.5% of owner contingency, and I think there's a CM contingency. I forgot what it was. So altogether, we still have a 5% contingency within these numbers. And in order to minimize the financial impact, not that it's going to be limit any kind of financial impact on the city, but to minimize our need to go out for additional bonding, we recently completed the Cranberry School project, and there's a free balance of, by coincidence, not by design, coincidence, it's $2.45 million remaining at our Cranberry School project. So we propose to close that account. Actually, there's still, I think, it's $60,000 left once we close it, because just in case there's some miscellaneous stuff that we need to take care of, because it has not been closed out with the state yet. So we're looking to reduce that project by $2.45 million and do a special appropriation for the recreation center at 90 South Main Street. So that pretty much the parameter of what the request is.
Okay. Thank you. So it's a net zero add to the capital budget. It's moving from one project to another, correct?
Correct.
Questions for Alan and or Robert on this project and on this request?
Troy's muted.
Troy, if you're speaking, Troy, you're on mute. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Mr. Chairman, question for Alan. What is the balance of a couple of questions on this Cranberry funds that became available? How come there's so much available? Is there anything left on that project? And is that a over budget item, or what? How did we end up with $2 million on a project like that over extra?
This is a kind of long discussion item. We develop when the project first started, we do a conceptual design, and we project cost estimating based on that conceptual design. At that point, there's a lot of different contingency and estimates into the budget, because at that point, typically we would not know what the site environmental remediation is, the structural design, everything else. So for Cranberry Park, we budgeted $45 million, and so happened that when we bid it out, it's a very interesting time when we bid it out. It's really right after COVID, but not that far after COVID ended. What happened right at that point, there's a desire in the construction community to because during COVID years, the construction is slow. So right at the end of the COVID issues, there was a desire for contract to bid on that project because they want to tie down construction, tie down project for business purposes. But 6 months after that, the prices jumped because all the projects that have been held off is now into the construction period kind of thing. So the economy changes quite a bit. So when Cranberry went out to bid, it was just right at the point of end of COVID, and then before people start signing up jobs, and now the economy kind of jumped a little bit, and the prices went up. So we just so happened by coincidence, we actually captured a very good time in terms of bidding. And the project, when we bid it out, we have some excess fund in that account. That's why there's like $2.4 million. It is very typical. We don't bring this out to talk about too much. Even with when we finish Pona School and we finish Jefferson School, usually we manage this project to the point that there's a little bit of surplus. I think there's $1.5 million or $2 million in surplus either with Ponas and Jefferson that we actually closed out and came back savings from the projects. So it's not unusual. We don't talk about it too much, but there are money that come back when we try to finish these projects. So we do a whole process during design phases to control costs, to manage building program, so that and then we do the whole value engineering, constructability, phasing, and all that to manage the costs all through the process. So it takes a little bit of work to manage within the budget. So anyway, I hope I answered your question.
And did you say that there's no more funds on that project for the Cranberry remaining after this?
I believe would be about $60,000 to $70,000 left after we take this money away.
All right, it just concerns me when I see such a big number of an overage there, especially when we're doing projects now that are huge. So, I mean, I just very surprised to see that big a number on the overage on this project. That's all.
Yeah, I think that was a very good explanation, Alan, though, of why we have as much as we do. What would happen typically to that money if it's not used?
It's get returned to the city so that reduces the overall city's debt, total debt. It's kind of interesting. I mean, we don't really. It comes back to the city, and it goes to, and again for this situation, we happen that the economy is very good in terms of a construction perspective, and the bids are going, it's crazy, right? I mean, during COVID, we are carrying like 3% increases per year. Last year and a half or so, the escalating cost is about 8%. So when it's I mean, talking a different product, like think about Norwalk High School at $200 million plus kind of thing. I mean, 3% is $6 million a year. So it's significant numbers, right? So when you talk about increases, that are traditionally is 3% per year when during post-COVID and the economy, and also the economy is a little different between public construction versus like private construction. The competition is very different. And it's very different. And Fairfield County is another thing that everybody talks about, being in Fairfield County. So, yeah, I think that's a challenge right now we have, because as much as like when Cranberry is done, we got savings. Right now, when we talk about this building on 98 South Main Street, we're in the period of the market that's very challenging. And that's why when we went to bid, the number came in, the same contract, same construction manager, and they do the same estimating process and stuff. It's just so unpredictable right now. So, but with the commitment of the ARPA funding, we really can rebid. We don't have this opportunity to rebid the project and get different pricing and stuff like that, or further reduce the scope of the project and kind of things like that. So we are locked in terms of getting it done. So and the best we can do is I think we have $3 million plus higher. We reduce about $1.1 million, so we still need $2.45 million. So as much as Cranberry has a good story financially, on this project we have challenges. So I think in a way, that's why we ended up with moving money from one place to the other. But it helped because that project we save money, and this project costs us some money. But again, it's not by design; it's the marketplace that triggered these issues.
Thank you.
One more question for me, Alan. Do we expect, I know there was a talk about a vendor coming in earlier, but is the city going to be occupying the whole space, or will be any tenants in the South Norwalk Recreation Center?
Yes, I think have Robert answer the question, but generally speaking, we still have a smaller partnership with the YMCA for a couple of programs for 5 years, I believe, and with a couple of option years. They will pay for the operating cost of their portion is about 2,000 square feet. They will pay for that. But other than that, I think Robert, if you can just respond to that in terms of programming and what is the strategy of the Recreation Parks Department in terms of utilization of the building.
Robert, I'm sorry, you're on mute.
Yeah, the YMCA is going to come with us with the Wilton, and they're going to run a couple of programs. They're going to run an esports program, and they're going to run a science a program.
I'm
And,
sorry, can anyone hear Robert? I can't hear him that well.
Can you hear me at all?
It's a little mumbled.
It's a little muffled.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So the Y is partnering with us to operate a few programs, and we're going to look at those programs as being really an integral part of our programs. But they will be running two programs: the esports program, and they'll be running a science program. And they will be fee-based, and so we're going to be working with them to try and make some of those programs accessible to people that can't afford it. But we want to run the center as though it's an integrated program. So it has the appearance of being run by one operation, and that's Recreation and Parks. In our staff, right now, our staff here will be using a lot of our staff here. We are requesting one position, a manager, in the budget to manage this facility. But we'll be using a lot of our existing staff to run the program. And we'll have several programs that really will be instructed by instructors that we'll be hiring. But besides the Y, there'll be no other partners running. The city will be running the community recreation center.
And just for clarity, Robert, all of that staff is within your budget and within your plan now. We're not going to see additional incremental requests for resource.
Well, we have made a request for a manager. Besides the manager, we will have we have part-time money to hire part-time staff, and we will have professional service dollars to hire instructors. But at this time, when we first open up the center, we'll have to operate it as best we can with what we have. But we're looking to grow in the future. The center also will have 3 community meeting rooms that are available for rentals for corporations, for companies, for nonprofit agencies, for birthday parties, for wedding receptions. So we'll have an extensive rental program that will bring in revenue as well. So as we grow, we will bring on more recreation professionals. But as we open, we'll have to grow to that staffing level.
Okay, thank you. Additional questions on this topic? Right. Seeing none, all in favor of the special appropriation request signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The appropriation request is approved. Thank you very much, Alan. Thank you very much, Robert.
Yeah, thank you very much too, and thank the board, and thank the mayor for the work that you contributed toward promoting this grand project. I think it's going to be one of the gems in our city. This is going to be a very integral institution for our young people and for our families. So thank you.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I believe the next item in other business is the update on the contingency tracker.
Yes, but before I get to that, just a quick note on the special capital appropriation. I'm not sure if you guys are, or if everyone's aware, but that is BET approval is step one of a four-step process. So from here on Wednesday, it's going to go to planning and zoning. Assuming it passes, it'll go to finance and claims on Thursday, and then finally the full council. Depending on how the calendar lines up, this is as good as it gets for Robert in about a 2-week span. It can be up to a 2-month span if the calendar is not quite as cooperative. But anyway, step one of a four-step process, just informational. Under the contingency tracker, no activity in December. So we started the year with $2.6 million budget. We are now down to 2.4 million. And with the approvals we just did between registrar of voters and the probate court, that'll take it down to about 2,150,000. So we're still in pretty good shape in anticipation of the ongoing labor negotiations, and when the contract gets signed. So, any questions?
No, and for those of you who were looking for it, the tracker itself can be found on page 65 of the package that was sent out.
Yes, Alan had a hefty handout here with the with the special appropriation. So,
Tom, real quick, I ask the same every month with regard to the contingency and the labor negotiations with the major contracts. Where are we with those? At first you guys were saying it was a year end. Where are we now?
The party line at this point is meetings are ongoing. I don't think that there's a tremendous amount to share. As you know, there are at least 5, maybe 6 different unions that we have to deal with. So I would say that they're at different stages. The fire department wants certain things that the food service workers don't necessarily need, and so it's difficult to do with a broad brush. So there are individual meetings taking place with all the union reps. So I don't get the sense that it's close. I wouldn't say the 5 or 10 yard line. I don't know if anybody else has some insight that they want to share, but it's ongoing as best I can tell.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I believe those are all of the items for discussion for this evening. I know within our packet is the monthly school construction program update. Any specific questions related to that for this month before we move to end the meeting?
Ed, I have some responses and follow-up to some questions that were asked during the last meeting.
Thank you, Jared.
Sure, no problem. I know there was one question about the one item regarding the Norwalk High School and the construction there, and there was a note about an additional $6.5 million needed. And that funding, that additional funding is related to some unanticipated costs that are not reimbursable by the state. And my understanding is that there won't be a need for an additional authorization of funding from the BET. And if Alan Lowe is on, I don't know, Alan, if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, the $6 million is actually previously approved money for our high school improvement project. So it's not like a new request. And I think the word is actually I'm trying very hard to maximize our reimbursement for this project, especially this is unlike a new reimbursable rate. This is 80% reimbursement. So we are doing everything we can to manage the overall budget of the project so that we can everything's assigned to the right places so that we can capture the maximum reimbursement we can get for this project. Thank you.
Since we have Alan on the line, could we have Alan give us an update on the school construction as how they're going, money's been spent, how the reimbursement is going? That would be very helpful.
Sure.
Let me before Alan goes, let me just say, and I'll follow up with the spreadsheet. I don't have the spreadsheet given the timing of this meeting and the New Year vacations, sicknesses, and other things. So I'll follow up after with details about about where we stand as far as the cash flow spreadsheet goes. So I will, and I apologize for that, but I will get that to you within the next couple of days. I can say generally one of the kind of looming questions that has been out there has to do with the state's holdback and retainage on their reimbursement, because it's fluctuated given different people in charge at DAS at the state of the program, and it has gone from a 5% retainage up to 11%, and Alan has told me that it is back down to a 5% amount, and that the era of the 11% retainage is now gone. So that's some good news for us on the cash flow front.
Okay.
Alan, I believe we received the second reimbursement for South Norwalk. And I filed the second reimbursement for the high school.
Yes, I think we are actually on target in terms of when we spend money. By the time they process a requisition from the city, and they send us a payment, it probably takes about a month after 2 months. But then meanwhile, we can't submit a new one until we get reimbursed for the one that we submitted. So it is a little bit of a longer process, but we are actually on schedule in terms of, like, for the money we spent so far. We have requested reimbursements from the state up to date right now.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. So do you want me to quickly I don't want to take up too much of your time. Should we just quickly go over the project for you since you asked?
Yeah, very quickly
Yes.
if you can,
Sure.
Alan, because we also have Lisa's report to cover after this update.
Sure. For first project that's on the update, it's actually South North School. We budgeted $76 million. There's other secondary funding that we have requested and allocated. But overall, the project's on budget, and if you ever go by South Norwalk, the place is, lack of better word, rocking. It's very exciting to see how much we can do in 9 months or so, kind of thing. So the building right now is the structure is erected. We're actually doing exterior walls. Interior wise, you can see the pictures on the backup. I mean, there's ductwork, exterior walls up, and we're putting up brickwork pretty soon. And the roof is up, installed. So we are looking to our schedule for completion by the August 15 of this year. And by about April of this year, in about 4 months from now, I will advise the Board of Education and city whether we can meet that schedule, because sometimes what happens is that when we do have a contractor issue, like a contractor may go bankrupt or whatever issue that we may have, and we can't deliver the project on time. But right now we are on schedule, and confirmation of that schedule will happen is April 15 to end of April. And then we are actually going for this Common Council approval of the furniture bid. The budget is 2.5. I think it's coming in altogether, it's around $1.5 million. So I think we have some savings on furniture as well in the budget. So overall, we're doing well on that project, and it's kind of exciting to see. So you ever go to South Norwalk, drive by and you see how exciting, how much is going on. We also acquired five pieces of property that we are merging onto this property, combining with the school property. And I'm also looking for the state for reimbursement not on the acquisition of property, but on the development of property, which is worth about $2.2 million. So we're gonna get 60%, roughly 60% of for that of the reimbursement, which you get about $1.2 million or so. So that's something I'm working on. Norwalk High School, it may seem a little slower just because it's a bigger project. So we are finishing all the site work and also the foundation work. We're pouring the slab, all the utility under the building is in. We're pouring slabs. We're looking to erect steel in February. So we're coming along pretty well. I won't go into detail. Just probably you can see from the package. There's aerial view of the construction, and I don't think there's anything I need to go into. But the building is scheduled to be completed in June of 2027, and at that point we're going to move in the summer of 2027. Furniture will go in, and we're going to move into the new building at the fall of 2027. At the same time, we will start demolition of the existing building. So it's still a few years down the road.
Mhm.
And generally speaking, we've been working very closely with the Board of Education and in terms of relocation of the sports activities and stuff for last year, and it worked out well. I think that's the main challenges that we have, because we decided not to do a demolition and construction for the existing building, instead of build a brand new building on the football facility. It's really worked out well because the impact of education would be quite a bit. When you're talking about, tear down, build a section, tear down O section, build another section, and because it's a precast concrete building, it's really hot when that noise and vibration, all that stuff would be terrible in terms of managing those issues. But by building a building, it does affect the sports program. Although some of these programs are off-site already, overall, we were managing that process pretty well. Lastly, with the HVAC project, we have 6 projects we submitted to the state, and we got approval on all 6 of these projects. The schedule for these projects is very challenging. This is HVAC improvement. The reason being is that we got approval in May, then we are required to go out and hire the architects, but not the architect, the engineering design firm. So we went through designing the last couple of months. But the way the industry is right now, ordering mechanical equipment takes about 4 months for delivery. So we work out the schedule. For instance, for Brookside School, we actually out to bid this week. By the time we get the bid back by the end of this month, go for Common Council approval and execute contract and have the contractor submit submittal. The best delivery day we can get is end of July. And then we need to finish the project by August 15th. These are rooftop units, so you can pop it on pretty easily, but still there's no margin of error. So we could not do any other project except Brookside. So that's the only project we went out to bid. The other 2 projects we're looking to do is actually the boilers for Silvermine and Rowayton School. Because doing boiler, we can start demolition a little earlier. It's like end of May, and then we can finish in October. So we have a little more time in terms of getting a boiler project implemented. The only other thing we'll do besides the 2 boilers and the mechanical system, rooftop system for Brookside, we are looking to evaluate, identify what the environmental remediation requirements are. So potentially we would do some of the hazardous material removal this summer, so that next summer 2026 we can really start the project and start putting equipment in. And because part of the problem is delivering time of equipment, and also a couple of the schools require upgrading the electrical system. The electrical switching gear delivering time is 9 months to a year, some of this stuff. So we are really trying to strategize how we can implement these projects in a timely fashion. So it's not a simple thing, but we are developing those strategies. So again, if anybody's interested in more detail, welcome to call me and we can talk about it. But other than that, I don't want to take up too much of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Appreciate the update. Shall we move then, Tom, to the tax assessors and the tax collectors update? And
Can I just say one thing quickly? I just want to say that Alan Lowe has the coolest background on Zoom that I've ever seen, and it matches your shirt.
That is actually
Those attention.
my fish tank.
Oh, that's your fish tank?
Yeah.
Oh, that is so cool.
And I would also like to add kudos to Ellen for managing these very large and significant projects. And as far as we can, they're coming in on budget, and that's exactly what the city needs. So thank you, Ellen.
Thank you.
Thank you. With those kudos, let's move to Lisa and the tax update.
Hello, can you hear me?
We got you, Lisa.
Hey, good evening, folks. Your packet that you were given tonight includes our narrative and our spreadsheet that was actually based on our numbers for November. And we haven't proved out the month of December quite yet. So I'm going to have to refer to those numbers, but we were actually right where we needed to be at the end of November, and December was pretty robust. The first week of January has been robust as well. Bills were in the mail by the end of the month. They went out in segments, real estate first, because that's the largest portion of the levy, followed by motor vehicle and business personal property. The collection's going really well. So I don't have anything else to report other than that we're in collection time. We're also continuing to work on delinquent enforcement. January 1st is when health permits renew. So we're working with the health department to ensure that any business that owes past due business personal property taxes for more than 1 year needs to bring those current in order to get their health permit renewed. We've also been filing UCC, Uniform Commercial Code liens on the Secretary of the State's website. We do that for past due business personal property taxes as well. Those taxes are really hard to collect. The assessment date is October 1st. The tax doesn't come due until the following July and then the following January after that, and a lot can happen with a business in that time. So that's the toughest tax to collect, and we do spend a significant amount of effort trying to avoid having large delinquencies in that type of tax. But I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have either about the collections or enforcement or anything else while I'm here.
Lisa's Troy, real quick. I noticed in your update that you now are collecting the cannabis retailers, 144,000 year end. What are you projecting? I know it's hard because it just started. Do you have an idea what you think a year number will be for the city?
I really don't. We started, they started submitting data to us in April of 2024, and we started billing in July because we were a little bit, the way that the system was working, it was a little bit behind. There was a lag. So we initially billed like 3 months at once. And at first there was only 1 dispensary open, then there were 2, and now there's going to be 3. And I was led to understand that there is a limit on how many dispensaries there can be within our city. And we are at the maximum right now. So we have the 3. We get the numbers from the state. Actually, the comptroller's office does. She gives them to me, and it's my job to bill and then collect. And then I give that money back to the city, and then the city disperses it wherever it gets dispersed to. I'm just the collector. I'm just the conduit. And so far it's going well. But I don't know how much money we're going to get. If I had to guess, it's hard to tell. I mean, one collects a lot more than the other, but it just seems to only be going up, not down.
It's Troy, if the trend continues, we're taking in 25, maybe 30,000 a month between the two, adding another one. I don't know if that's just gonna kind of redistribute where people purchase from, and we'll continue to take in the same amount, roughly, or if it'll, maybe it opens up an additional market to us and we could get more, to Lisa's point. And so that's kind of the unknown here. Also important to point out that this is we're mandated by the state as far as what we can use this money for. And so this does not go into the general fund. This goes into a separate account that we're mandated to use it for specific purposes related to community development, jobs, social services. It's pretty they're sort of broad, but they're all laid out in the statute that started this program.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Lisa? Thank you as always, Lisa. Tom, I believe that covers everything that was on other business on our agenda, but keep me honest on that point.
It is, but I do have one administrative note, just for the February meeting, which normally would have been on Monday, the 3rd. It will be the second Monday. That would be February 10th. And the reason for that is the week of presentations to on the fiscal 26 operating budget and the recommendations. So it's the BET on the 10th, Common Council on the 11th, and then that Thursday would be finance and claims. We try to do that presentation consistently and within the same time frame, or within a week of so everybody gets the information at the same time.
Very good. Thank you, Tom.
Mr. Chairman, can I just bring one point before we close real quick?
Sure.
I noticed in our last meeting on the minutes, obviously, the point was brought up about guidance that Jared and his team gave to the city, and it was between 2.5–3% increase. Obviously, there was a meeting with the Board of Education. I'm reading the articles. I did not attend the meeting, but I read the articles in the paper, and it looks like they're coming in about 9.9% plus. So I'm just curious, with Jared and your team, how do you characterize that? I know the mayor said that there's a challenge with this, so just curious what the early responses were when you saw this.
It's a lot of money. It's a major amount. I know that Ed Abrams was at the workshop that we went to. They do great work. They have a lot of needs. But I made it known that we have a challenge with the phase-in of reval going, and under good conditions, normal conditions, we're going to see tax increases on median households, in the double-digit range, probably between 10 and 15%. And that would be under the situation where you have a 3% increase. If it's going to go to 9–10%, then it's going to be reflected in the tax bills, and they're going to be looking at more like 25% increase next year in the median tax bill. And it's because of the phase-in. It's because of a couple of things on the revenue side that one-time revenues that were budgeted for this year that won't be there next year. And so it's I've followed up with them, continuing to ask questions and to make suggestions about where they may look to find other savings, and so that it's ongoing. Our dialogue's ongoing. We're going to meet with them next week to go over the superintendent's final proposal, and we'll keep plugging away and trying to find some solutions. But there needs to be some creativity and innovation, and I think the large requests have been coming for years. They're going to continue to come for years, unless I think there needs to be some discussions about some structural changes in order to slow this trend.
Thank you.
And I would agree with Jared. I think he did a wonderful job, as did a number of other people at the workshop, of kind of setting expectations with the Board of Education. That said, as is always the case when you go through a budget cycle, there's going to have to be a lot of conversation and a lot of collaboration to get to something that works for all of the citizens. The good news is it was expressed early to the Board of Education, but it'll still be a challenging process. There's no other way to put it. Before we close, Mr. Mayor, any comments you want to make this evening?
No, just talk about the union contracts, ongoing discussions, talk about the Board of Education. We've looked at the request. We still have some work to do, and that is also ongoing. So we'll make a presentation once the mayor's and the CFO's budget is finalized. We'll make a presentation to you.
Very good. All right. Seeing no other questions or comments, can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
Happy New Year, everybody.
Motion.
Artie, thank you very much. We are adjourned. Happy New Year all. Welcome
New
back.
Year.
Have a great night, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.